Good evening. It is an act of aggression condemned as a barbaric attack on an independent democratic country. Cities have been bombarded, towns devastated, and countless lives have been lost. And now, growing evidence of war crimes is emerging. Evidence dismissed by Russia as a sham. Tonight, in his first British broadcast interview since the war began, I speak to the man who does much of the talking for Vladimir Putin, his spokesman, Dmitriy Peskov. He joins me live from his office in Moscow. And thank you very much for being with us. First of all, do you accept that the first weeks of this invasion have not gone according to plan for President Putin?
Well, first of all, I would rather disagree with your qualification of what is going on. You didn't mention the qualification of special military operation, and you didn't say a word about the reasons for the special military operation.
Because it's a war, isn't it? It's not a special military operation. It is a full-scale, illegal war. It's
a very serious operation with quite heavy consequences. Yes. I would like to start with the reason of this operation. Actually, it's very important to remind you. 2014. This is the year when the legal history of Ukraine was changed during an illegal coup, and after that, Ukraine has started to become an anti-Russian center. Everything that occurred in Ukraine was aimed against our country. And during last couple of decades, actually, we were concerned about our security. NATO, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, started to move towards our boundaries.
Yeah.
And we were really nervous about that.
But Ukraine, let's be honest about this. Ukraine posed no threat to Russia, and NATO is a defensive organization that also poses no threat to Russia. And just my point at the beginning was that you have retreated. The reason I said it's not going to plan is you've retreated from the capital. President Zelensky is still in power. You've lost thousands of troops. You've lost 6 generals, hundreds of tanks and other equipment. It's a humiliation, really, isn't it?
No. It's a wrong understanding of what is going on.
But what is wrong about what I've just said?
Well, nearly everything.
Well, but you've lost thousands of troops, yeah? Let's go through it. You've lost thousands of troops. How many troops have you lost?
We have significant losses of troops, and it's a huge tragedy for us. Now, about 2 regions, Kiev and the Chernigov regions. So actually, the troops were really withdrawn from that region as an act of a goodwill during the negotiations between 2 delegations, Russian and Ukrainian delegation. And it was an act of a goodwill just to lift tension from those regions, and in order to show that Russia is really ready to create comfortable conditions for continuation of negotiations.
Yeah, but it's just not true, is it? Because you continued. If it was a measure of goodwill, why then did you continue to bombard Mariupol in the way that you have, to devastate that city? If you really wanted to facilitate peace talks, you would have had a ceasefire. But you carried on bombarding Mariupol and shelling Kharkiv and other places. So it's not really true, is it?
If you let me, I'll try to explain. Well, first of all, Mariupol is a part of Lugansk People's Republic. You know, we recognize them as an independent state. And actually, the premier goal of the operation was to assist those people of 2 people's republics that were suffering for 8 years from heavy shelling from Ukrainian military people. And by the way, during those 8 years, no one would mention that. Would mention those atrocities.
No one in Europe and no one in Great Britain. Even if it was true, that doesn't justify a full-scale invasion, does it? I mean, let's keep this in proportion. I mean, are you determined? You mentioned Mariupol is part of Ukraine. Are you determined to take Mariupol, whatever the human cost, whatever the cost in civilian life?
Mariupol is going to be liberated from nationalistic battalions. And we hope it will happen sooner than later.
So liberation, you describe it as liberation. So the pounding of Mariupol, the pounding of civilian buildings, the pounding of a hospital, that's liberation, is it?
Well, hospital was a fake. Hospital was a fake, and we have very serious reasons to believe that it was a fake, and we insist on that. This is number one. Number two.
Well, let me just say, you did say that one of the famous photograph, or infamous photograph, of a woman on a stretcher, which you said was you said she was an actor. She turned out, a doctor told us later, to have died.
Staged.
She told us she died. So let's not talk about that. I mean, how many civilians, let me ask you this, how many civilians do you think have died in Ukraine so far?
I don't want to operate any figures that are not confirmed or double confirmed. We have to be very careful. We have to be very careful in pronouncing any figures, because we're living in during a days of fakes and lies.
Well, let me tell you this.
That we meet every day.
Let me tell you this. So your UN ambassador has said there are no credible reports of civilian casualties. And as regards Bucha, according to your Ministry of Defence on April the 3rd, and I quote, not a single local resident has suffered from any violent action while Russia was in control. I mean, do you really expect the world to believe that?
We insist on that. We insist on that, and we insist that the whole situation, the situation is Bucha, is a well-staged insinuation, nothing else.
So let me just show you.
And those poor people, and we're seeing dead bodies there.
Yeah.
And those dead bodies there were not victim of Russian military personnel.
You see, this is astonishing for you to talk like this. Let me just show you this satellite image from Bucha on the outskirts of Kiev. And this is an image taken on the 28th of February. We have geolocated it to Yablonska Street in Bucha, before Russia had control of the area. It's a normal-looking street. Let's compare it to an image of the exact same location on the 19th of March, just a couple of days after Russia had taken control of the area. And now you see the shadows, bodies strewn along the street. And we know their bodies from this video.
Maxar's pictures. We know those Maxar's pictures.
No, but we know their bodies from this video released, I'm showing now, on social media on the 1st of April, which we've geolocated as well. We have blurred the bodies for viewers. And you can see this body is in the same place as the one seen in the satellite image. The body hasn't moved. The car drives along further. You can see, stops at 2 more bodies, again matching the position of the ones in that satellite image. And so it continues with everybody on the street. And you maintain that all this was staged. You're talking about a fake. This shows that dead bodies appeared while you control the area. Russian troops killed those people, didn't they?
If you have another 20 or to 30 minutes, I will explain step by step why it all fakes. If you have this additional time, let's go on. I will tell you.
You're saying it's fake, so there's not much point going on. But we've verified it. We've geolocated it. We've got the dates from the satellite imagery company.
We know pretty well the company that has supplied international community with these satellite pictures. This is a Maxar company that is in a very tight cooperation with the Pentagon. And it's interesting. It's interesting to know, and you would probably be interesting to know that they don't have actually exact dates on their footage, on their satellite images. So it's impossible to allocate an exact date of those satellite pictures.
Okay, let's have a look at this.
We still insist that those pictures were made after Russian troops were withdrawn from that area.
OK, well, what about this one then? Because our team has also verified this next video to early March in the same area of Bucha. And here we see a woman with a bike, named today as Irina Filkina, walking along Yablonska Street when Russian troops were in control. Around the corner is an armoured vehicle identified by our team as a Russian military vehicle. So the Russians are there. You can see the vehicle fire a shot which creates a plume of smoke exactly where Irina was standing with her bike. Now, let me finish. If I could just finish, Ms. Peskov, sorry. After the Russians had withdrawn, this video, geolocated to the exact same spot, showed Irina lying dead on the ground. So there can be no real doubt, surely, that this shows Russian troops killing a civilian.
Yeah.
It's right there on film.
I'd appreciate if you could be more specific. I'll appreciate if you could be more specific. How could you exactly identify the Russian tank or whatever, what was standing? Why do you think it was Russian? OK, well, I think we got a still that shows the Russian tank. You can see, if you look at that, you can see the V marking clearly on the side. Yeah, but those are not the tanks that were shooting. That suggests it's a different position. They are the exact same armoured vehicles that were on that street. I mean, look, we've verified it. What you're showing right now, what you're showing right now are not the exact tank that was shooting. You have to be very careful. You have to be very careful in what you are showing, just not to repeat. It is exactly the same armoured vehicle. I mean, so you deny that that happened. You're denying it's happened, and you're saying it's being faked, basically. It's some sort of conspiracy. Is that right? We deny that Russian military can have something in common with these atrocities and with dead bodies that were shown on the streets of Bucha. So let's just be clear here. What you're saying to the world, what you're saying to Ukrainians, what you're saying to, let's face it, the relatives of those victims that we've just seen there, and what you're saying to Russians, your own people, is that this is fabricated, it is fake, and that it is some sort of huge conspiracy, a propaganda stunt. I mean, do you realise how grotesque that sounds? Well, it's not a conspiracy, actually. It's a bold fake. It's a bold fake, and we've been speaking about that for a couple of days, but no one would listen to us. We've been presenting very detailed explanations on various internet resources. If you're interested in that, we'll provide you with those internet resources. But to say it's a fake, you're suggesting it's a conspiracy between satellite imagery companies, between Ukrainians, between all the Western media. I mean, you're suggesting it is a conspiracy. It's exactly what you're saying. Well, of course, it can be a play of fakes. It can be a play of lies. Okay. You can attach any date to a picture that was made through satellite. Okay. And then, what about? Well, we have to doubt sometimes. I mean, you cannot be without any investigation. But you doubt all the time. You cannot be so sure. Okay. While blaming everything on Russia.